This is the Land Face-Turning Octahedron, a puzzle quite similar to a Rubik's Cube, except with 8 sides to turn around instead of just 6. Even though you may have never heard of it, it's actually gained a lot of popularity in recent years, to the point where multiple competitions I went to last year actually held unofficial rounds of speed solving it. The only problem is, there aren't many great face-turning octahedrons out there on the market. I heard that the best one was the Land, which is what I bought, but as you can see, it's far from being a great speed cube. Instead, there's actually a much more clever way to create a great face-turning octahedron. And it starts with a puzzle that you wouldn't expect, the Chi Super Ivy Cube. Now you might be saying, like I first did, wait, what? That is an entirely different puzzle than the FTO. But believe it or not, the Super Ivy Cube, which is also known as the Rex Cube, is actually just a shape mod of this puzzle. Let me prove it to you. If you go ahead and look at these big corner pieces on the FTO, which there are 6 of, those are the same thing as these big center pieces on the Rex Cube. Now if you look at these big edges up here, these are the same thing as these long skinny edges. Same thing with all these little centerpieces spread out around the puzzle. Those are the same thing as these little centerpieces spread out around this puzzle. I really had to stare at them for a minute to really wrap my mind around it. Now the connection between these two puzzles has been known for a long time, which is why fans of the FTO got so excited when Chi released their version of the Rex Cube a few years back. Just trying it out, you can tell that it's an incredibly fluid and smooth puzzle, and the corner cutting is pretty darn good as well. So the obvious next step is to turn this new Rex Cube into a face-turning octahedron. Now this process was pioneered by legendary puzzle modder Ben Puzzles, whose videos actually helped inspire me to get into modding way back when I started this channel. But rather than trying to manually cut down the pieces and then build them back up into the shape of an octahedron, instead, he designed a set of 3D printed caps that can more or less just be swapped out with the ones that come on the puzzle, making this transformation a lot simpler. To show you how this works, let's go ahead and take this puzzle apart so I can show you how each piece will be modified. So as you can see, these are the 4 types of pieces on the Rex Cube. First up, to modify these big center pieces into these big corner pieces, you can see there's a convenient screw on the bottom. Unscrewing that allows you to pop off this flat center cap and then conveniently replace it with this new 3D printed corner. And there you go. Now it's an FTO piece. These little center pieces are just as simple. You just remove this little screw on the bottom, and then you can pop off the included cap and then replace it with the new 3D printed FTO piece just like this and screw it back in. And there you go. Now the other 2 pieces aren't quite as easy. For the edges, since there's no included screw, you actually have to cut off the top of the piece right here before gluing on the new cap. They recommend using a hacksaw, which is probably the cheapest way, but I'm impatient, so I'm going to use a Dremel. Finally, this 4th piece is actually hidden underneath all the other pieces, and you also have to chop it down to match the new shape of the puzzle. You can also 3D print an entirely new piece. You can even have a hole in it for more convenient tensioning, but I hear that chopping down the original piece results in better turning, so I'm going to try that. Finally, even though the original puzzle does have ball bearings to give it that clicky alignment feeling, there are actually spots for magnets in the 3D printed pieces, so I'll definitely be gluing all of those in. You can also remove the original ball bearings, but I think I'm just going to leave them in so you still have that nice clicky feeling. I have left out a lot of little details here, so if you want to make your own, I'll leave a link down below to a full assembly tutorial, as well as the FTO Discord, where you can find the files to 3D print, as well as a ton of other useful information in the hardware channel. But I think it's finally time to start making my own. We've got to 3D print all the pieces, clean them up to make them look nice, take everything apart, cut down all the old pieces, glue in all the magnets, put together all the new pieces, put everything together, and then put some new cubicle stickers on. Let's go ahead and start the time lapse. And here is the finished RexTO. You know, I still can't believe this thing was made out of one of these. I think in total it took me around 6 hours to make, not counting the 3D printing, although I made a few mistakes here and there and was very meticulous about things, so I think if I tried again I could probably do it a lot faster. I think the hardest part was just everything to do with 3D printing. That might be because I have an older printer, but it was pretty tricky to get all these overhangs to print right, and especially on these centerpieces, sanding everything down afterwards to make sure that everything actually fit correctly. But once the printed pieces were finished, it was pretty smooth sailing, and I'm really happy with how the puzzle turned out. If it weren't for some of the leftover lines from 3D printing, it would be pretty much indistinguishable from a mass-produced puzzle. As for sticker shades, I basically just bought the default set from the Cubicle and then copied the color scheme from the Lan. I think they could be a little bit brighter, but they look reasonably nice. But let's go ahead and try out the turning. As you might expect, it has the same level of smoothness and fluidity as the original Rex Cube, but with a bit of a 3D printed feeling on top. I haven't really messed with the tensions, but I did dump quite a bit of silicone lube inside, which did seem to help quite a bit. The ball bearings give it that old school loud clacky feeling. You get a really tactile bump at the end of every turn. I certainly would prefer a quieter, smoother puzzle, but I don't think the magnets alone would be up to the task of aligning the pieces, and I think the ball bearings just about work in a puzzle like this. And I would say that this thing is certifiably speed cubable. Just that little bit of extra corner cutting and the general fluidity of the turning far outpaces the Lan, which just seems to lock up all the time, even when it's in a perfectly aligned state. I'm not saying this is the best FTO possible. I think if any speed cubing company gave a real shot at it, they could blow this thing out of the water easily and make a real speed cube version, but I think this is the best option that we have at the moment. And by the way, if you don't want to bother making one yourself, fellow Colorado Cuber Junior Solis actually sells fully custom RexTOs with your choice of setup in terms of lube, ball bearings, magnets, plastic type, sticker shades, even stickerless options. He made this one just for me, and he was also the first one to show them to me at a cubing competition and got me interested enough to make my own. The stickerless design is really cool. It's basically hand painted, and he also uses vapor polishing on the outside to get rid of those ugly 3D printed lines and give the plastic more of a professional, mass-produced look and feel. If you want to check him out, I'll link Junior's YouTube channel down below, along with where you can get information about these custom RexTOs. But I don't think I can finish this video without at least doing a solve of this puzzle. As soon as I finished making it, I actually brute force taught myself how to solve it, and believe it or not, I have actually been practicing a little bit in the last few weeks. A good solve for me is about 1.5 minutes. I have no idea if the method I'm using is any good, so feel free to roast me, but let's go ahead and cut to that now. Solving this puzzle initially was a little bit trickier than I expected. I think I only figured it out because I heard that it was a shape mod of the 5x5 Jing pyramings, a puzzle that I do know how to solve. It takes a lot of familiar concepts like center and edge pairing, but then totally flips them on their head, making you have to wrap your mind around not just a whole new type of puzzle, but a whole new shape of puzzle. It was the first time in years I got to experience that addicting feeling of learning how to speed solve a new event and getting constantly faster every single day. I think this puzzle is so fun and satisfying to solve because it's non-trivial, unlike say the Killaminx, Ready Cube, or Mir Cube, which all just feel too easy. I'm already signed up for my first unofficial round of FTO at a cubing competition next weekend, so we'll have to see how that goes. As for the question of becoming an official WCA event, I think the FTO actually adds a lot more in terms of interesting solving challenges than most other proposed cubes I've tried, and it's admittedly a lot more interesting than Scube, the last official event they added over 10 years ago now. Of course, the only way that'll ever happen is if competition organizers keep on holding it unofficially, and most importantly, us speed solvers keep on signing up for it and voicing our support. So if you're looking for a new puzzle to speed solve, check out the Face-Turning Octahedron. Even if it's just a cheap one like a Lan, I promise you'll have a lot of fun with it, and then maybe someday once it gets popular enough, we can actually get a great speed cube version of it as well. There's kind of a chicken and egg problem right now where not enough people want to get into it because it's not an official event and the hardware's not very good, but I think it is a worthy puzzle of being a lot more popular than it is, and only you can help break that cycle. So try it out, I think you'll have a lot of fun, but that's pretty much it for this video. I really hope you all enjoyed this fun mod, and I'll see you guys next time.